So let's get started. I have today a couple of different things to show off, I guess. We have two different bug fixes, the notification preview and settings window were both had some small fixes to them. And then I got a couple new features. The big ones are these two new tabs that I'll show, but I'm going to go through all of these in general first and go through them. So first, the notification preview, this little screen down here, when you change the colors, it would only update on restart. Like the colors are saved to config file, so they are remembered whenever you close the app and start it again, so you don't have to reconfigure these. But now you can see the color actually changes live with the color picker here. So they change immediately. I'm just going to move this over a tiny bit. I'm going to shrink it even. So they change immediately, and the same for the background color, which just makes it a little bit easier, I guess. And then let's see, the scroll right here. I'm going to change this entire layout in general because it's just kind of puked on the page, and it's really hard to tell what all these settings do. They really are just kind of placeholders. But when you made it too small before, you wouldn't be able to see the bottom ones. And I just made it so that there's a scroll bar now that shows up here on the right. So now you can scroll. Really simple change. But I do think that I'm going to move these around so that there's a section for connecting to Twitch, there's a section for the animation, a section for notification, a section for sounds, and it's better laid out on the screen space. So those are the two bug fixes. The features that I worked on, this one I didn't talk about. I think I might have done it like the same day or the day after the last review. But in the models page, it's now by default hidden for the file paths. So if you show the file paths, you can still get the full file path. And if you hover it, if it's too long, if you hover it, it will show you what it is in the tooltip. But as Pastry pointed out, some streamers don't really like to show off their file system. They want to keep that private. So by default, it's off. You can turn it back on. And then if you have it on and you refresh, it will stay. And if you have it off and refresh, it'll stay that way as well. So it stays with the choice that you made. Okay, now there's some basic sound effects as well. So I just added in like a very simple option button of these different free sound assets that I got. They aren't anything particularly exciting, I would say, but they're just some basic options for potential opening animation sounds. I figured Pastry, complained. I shouldn't say complained, gave feedback, or would talk about the fact that sometimes the animations would open or people would get their thing. Oh, you can't hear it right because Godot's sound is probably turned off in not Godot audio. Shit, I'm going to have to capture my desktop audio. Whatever. Okay. Yeah, I shouldn't say complaining. They gave good feedback, which was when it's silent, and the thing opens up on screen, you sometimes miss it because there isn't any indication to the streamer that it's going on. So this audio effect plays. I mean, you don't have to capture it in OBS if you just want to hear it yourself as a broadcaster, or you can mute it altogether so that you can't hear it at all and nobody hears it, or of course then you can capture it so the audience can hear it too. So just some different real basic ones. I think long term it'd be nice to have another option that lets people set their own sound. The only thing that's a little awkward is I think for Godot I might need to check if MP3 and MP4 will work just fine, or if I'm going to need to I mean, they should, because you can use MP3 and WAV and everything as is. But anyways, yeah, so you can play this little sound. It plays when you actually open the, when the thing opens in the middle. Just like that. Okay. You need a wave for looping. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that sounds familiar. Right. So then the other thing here we have new is the roll queue. So when you queue up a bunch of rolls, there's this roll spacing timer that dictates how long it should wait in between each roll before playing the next one. And previously, they would just all sort of happen at once. Now they get, or I mean, they always happened in a queue, but you couldn't see it. So I added it now that this tab shows you what's in the queue. I think eventually maybe having it so you could pause the queue or even delete some rolls from it or save the queue to the disk before you close the app could be nice. But this is really just an initial way to show users and broadcasters how many people are in the queue. As another complaint thing, if it's easy, can you have the queue appear on screen somewhere? You mean like another thing you can capture with OBS so that you can show it as like a little widget on screen? Is that what you mean? Would it be, so I think that could be possible. Is that something that you would really want, like your whole, a portion of your screen real estate eaten up? Or like maybe I can make a chat command that says exclamation point queue. You know, maybe it could be something like you type exclamation point queue, and then it prints out the list of the next 5 or something. But I see what you mean too. So maybe something like a next in line mini queue source. Add as extra capture for showing on screen, or maybe just a chat command like exclamation point queue. Yeah, I think that could be something pretty useful for sure. Because I'm sure you get like questions or people will want to know how far in the queue they are. I mean, there could also be a command like that says my place in queue, and it tells that specific user how much time they have in their queue. And I do know there's a way to get a whisper back, but it might cause the commands in chat to get a little messy, like a bit too much. Because you could then, in theory, just have like a ton of people spamming the queue things. Oh, you got the Ryun rat. But yeah, good feedback. I'll consider how I can make this happen. That's pretty much it for the roll queue. And then the last thing here is the user inventory tab. So I have now set it up that you can search by users. So if it's basically just doing it contains, it is lowercase. And all the users should be lowercase. Pastry for you, I think you have Jidio in yours twice because you were using it before I fixed the bug to make sure all the usernames were lowercase. When you did the chat command for the manual role. And so it shows up for you. Jidio shows up for you twice because I think there's something in your database where there's a capital J still. But it is all it's all lowercase because all the Twitch usernames come across as lowercase when you use the API. So I don't know, for example, like Scary Pastry, how you have a capital S and capital P in your name. It doesn't come across like that in the API from Twitch. You just get Scary Pastry. But this lets you see the inventory, and if they've earned more than one of a specific model, then it will get counted towards a total instead of just listing it a bunch of times. And as Pastry requested, I made it so that the columns can be sorted by clicking on them. So the column is not, the sort algorithm is not considered stable, meaning it, if two things are exactly the same, like common and common, there's no guarantee that this first common will always come before the second column. So you could do it multiple times, and Main Guy and Godot might be in a different order sometimes because they're part of the same rarity, but I don't think that really makes a big difference. Either way, it lets you say, you can sort by rarity and then look, more easily at which one it is, and then the same for like the tokens first acquired, so you can see the first time that they got each one of these. These all say 9/4/24 because when I updated the date, I just put in the day's date. So this is the first time I ever recorded dates, even though Pastry, you very likely earned these before the 4th of September. It just was the default date. And then, yeah, you can see like you've gotten 5 of the Godot heads. So pretty useful. But it is like just a contain, so you can see I type W in Code Wonderland and PPs here now show up, even mine, Upcart Software, which is way down the list. So yeah, that's it. I think those are the main features. So we have the queue, the inventory, row sorting, the basic sound effects, file paths, and then some small bug fixes. So that's where we're at. I did want to show off, I guess, as well. Right now, I still have a pretty big backlog, and the backlog keeps getting bigger as Pastry requests different features. And I find things, and people bring up good points, and I get feedback. So I wanted to make basically a cutoff where I can actually try to sell it, because right now it's sort of locked on itch. It's a private project, and only those that have the password can get it, because I didn't really feel like it was ready for the general public to use. Like I didn't want to have to be fixing a lot of bugs or giving a bunch of caveats in the page. So what I did do though now is I had previously, about last week or 2 weeks ago, marked different items that I thought were a high priority for releasing it as a purchasable item, and added those here. So I have not a ton left. I want to fix up some of the visuals, like the lighting and the color palette. I want to add another animation that's smaller so it doesn't take up the real estate like I talked about last time. A last chat command that lets a user see the last thing that they rolled. And then I have one more bug that I haven't tried to fix yet, which is some PNG files that Pastry had. He couldn't import them, so there's something wrong with the import. But essentially, once I get these 5 things done, which I'm hoping won't actually take that long, I think I'm going to move the project towards like an early access release or something where it's open and available for people to see and purchase in the general public. it basically means I need to finish these couple things, any other bugs that I find, and then fix up the itch page so that it has like all the how-tos that I would need. So I just have connecting to OBS and importing right now. But I might add some more like FAQ style stuff, and then probably some more, I don't know, marketing things like GIFs of what it looks like, marketing style descriptions, and a video possibly that shows it. So basically just some real basic things to make this page look a lot nicer. And say that adding an option to hide the machine may be requested. Yeah, that's the main thing that I was thinking from the mini animation that I'm working on. Is it essentially will take away the ball bouncing around the screen and instead just have a small little window of opportunity, a window of opening where you can, right now, you get this massive OBS capture and it takes up a lot of the screen. And if you shrink it down, then the token in the middle gets really small. So if you shrink this whole thing, then this gets shrunk as well, right? It's like all of them shrinking together. And you end up with something that looks terrible. So then you can't make this smaller and move it around this screen real estate. So I'm working on right now on making another animation, which is like much smaller compared to the general screen size, that you can tuck away into a corner like this, somewhere in OBS, wherever you like, and you don't have to eat up all your screen. Because I do know that, you know, so the screen space is precious, and people might have problems with using their whole screen for this like ball to bounce around. It might be something where I do another one of these as well, where I, like Pastry, like you're saying, hide the machine and still have the ball bounce around screen, but then like everything is transparent. It's just this little tiny ball. So I don't think the machine adds a ton as it is right now, unfortunately. So maybe just the thing shooting from off screen would be good. And yeah, that's mainly it from last week. Just before this, and I guess what I'm gonna do now for the rest of stream is I'm working on. I'm really not that proud of the machine. Thanks, Pastry, but I'm really not that proud of it. It's kind of a mess. It was something. It was an experience making it, but I don't know, I'm not that excited about it. Anyway, so I started working on this, and it's kind of what I want to do now for a little bit, so I'm just going to keep working on it. Essentially, I want to take a window. Even this might be too big. It should be fine because, again, only the center of the screen will be used, and this will be transparent on the other side. But essentially, I want a window that's more like this, where there's just something in the middle and it moves around maybe. I was messing around with possibly an animation that makes it bounce back and forth. And then I'm messing with shaders. So this one right now, what essentially I'm doing is I'm taking the halfway point and turning it into a sine wave and then having it move with time. So I thought it'd be interesting if I could give to the user the ability to change these colors. So there's no reason it has to be these ugly greens and reds, right? So it could be like this weird ugly yellow, and then I could put a 0.9 here and a like a 0.1 here. Maybe make it a more blue, 0.7. So I could export these. I could give the user the option to change these two colors so that they could change this, and then I could probably also give them the option to change some of these on a scale. So like if I do that, you can see I make the wave I change the frequency of the wave so it flattens it out, or I could make it more steep and give the give more jumps. And then the same is true also with the speed. So I can cut the speed in half and it moves slower. I can speed it up by twice as much and it moves faster. Or I can even make the, bigger, the lines, right? So as you can see, I can go all the way to the top and bottom, even like this weird circus ball, or almost to the top. You could make it like really small. So I think I might let users change it with sort of sliders, just because it allows them to customize it, and it's not that crazy, but it was really easy for me to do. And then I might just try to make other shaders, like other shader options to change how this ball looks. So they can get more interesting visuals, I guess.